for reverts by reverts. And it not only is going to support the reverts, because we have to have somewhere, all of this dawah that's going on, we have to have somewhere to direct the people after we give dawah to them. And as you know, one of the negatives, and you know about these facts, about the people who accept Islam that leave Islam, that number is real. I'm not going to say what that number is because I know that everybody who leaves Islam doesn't take surveys or things of that nature, so that number can be inflated or it can be low. However, it is a percentage of people who do take this deen on and leave the deen. So Embrace is a program that will help to foster the reverts when they come to Islam and support them and teach them and bring them into the fold and try to help them take on leadership, positions, inshallah ta'ala. Okay, so let's get to this last speech by our dear brother Richard. And
password?
okay, Brother Richard McKinney. He is from the U.S. Marine Corps veteran. After 25 years in the armed services and several tours in the Middle East, a Marine named Richard McKinney came back to the U.S. filled with rage towards Muslims. In what he viewed as a final mission for his country, McKinney planned to blow up the mosque in his Indiana hometown. Then a fateful trip to the mosque, where he was welcomed by the local Muslim community, changed the course of his life. This is real. This is real. This is no Hollywood movie or anything like that. Soon McKinney became a Muslim himself and the leader of the mosque. MashaAllah. Takbir. So we would like to welcome our brother, Mr. Richard McKinney.
Alhamdulillah.
Assalamu alaikum rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam rahmatullahi wa
That's
barakatuh.
actually pretty good. Alright, good job. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah rabbil alameen. Ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Ashhadu la ilaha illallah. Ashhadu Muhammadan Rasulullah. I'm very humble to be here in front of all of you. I'm very humble to have been asked to come here by this organization. Why Islam? It's a great organization. Great organization. The name's Why Islam, and I'm like, why not Islam? Wow. I sometimes I have a hard time understanding. Sometimes I have a hard time understanding why people even want to listen to me. I'm thankful, and I like coming to these talks because, of course, you know, like I've said many times, I have a wife and a teenage daughter. Nobody listens to me at home. The only time anybody listens to me is when I'm here. So I like that. But yes, I was filled with hatred. I was filled with rage. And I don't think any of us really understand hatred. I don't think any of us really understand what that means. Because it's a word that's used so interchangeably now. It's in style to hate things. It really is. You know, like I was talking to a brother earlier today. I remember back in the 80s when I was still very much doing things in the dunya. There used to be this thing we call social smoking, where you would smoke when you went out with your friends and stuff. It was social smoking. That's a total faux pas now. There's nothing social about smoking. Hopefully, inshallah, we'll have the same thing with hatred. But hatred is accepted now. And you're judged on it. The more you hate, pretty much the higher your social standing is. We have a man in charge of this country right now that his whole world is surrounded by hate. Everything he stands for, foundation, is on hate. And he uses a saying that being a veteran, I take major offense to. Make America great again. America's always been great. I think we need to change that to remember what made America great. Because we've stepped away from that. But let me get back more on this hatred. I have an example that I like to give because it really explains what true hatred is. I was with the PSYOPs unit, Psychological Operations, when I was in Bosnia in 2004. This was before I went to Afghanistan, before I went to Iraq. When I was in Bosnia, I had 2 missions. I'll talk about one of them. I used to give interviews on radio. For some reason, my commander said, "You're kind of charming. We're going to send you to the radio station." All right. So I had my own interpreter. And it was a young lady, Bosnian, Muslim background. And her name was Sarah. And very nice young lady. She was a non-practicing Muslim. Her family was very devout. She took us home, took me and some of my guys to her house to meet her family at one time. And very good people. But I didn't like Muslims. Even, I still did not like these Muslim people. And my buddies used to know about that. They would know that, I would just say all kinds of off-the-wall things about Muslims and not liking Muslims, and I can't believe I'm here because of the Muslims need somebody to watch their back. And, I was confused, upset, and just downright mad. But they'd ask me. They said, "We know you don't like Muslims, Mac, but what about Sarah? You like Sarah?" I said, "You know what? I do like Sarah. Sarah's a good girl. She takes care of us. And we take care of her because we care about her. But brother, she still got to go. But I'll do it myself. And I'll make sure she feels no pain." That's hatred. When you're willing to take the life of someone that you actually care about, just because you don't like where they come from or what they stand for, that's hatred. So, now that we've discussed that, I was forced out of the military. 2006, found myself in Ramadi, Iraq. Second floor of a building. We went in to go get somebody. Imagine that, they weren't there. And I'm on the second floor looking out onto the street, getting ready to take my people back out to the extraction team. It's the last thing I remember. There was an IED underneath the building, it blew up, blew me straight out the hole. I don't remember any of it, of course, but one of the guys on the street, actually came in to see me in the hospital. He says, "Sarge," he says, "the only thing missing from you was a cape because you flew straight across the street." So that's kind of funny to me because I don't remember it. So, but in their infinite wisdom, they decided that my military time was up. I went over 20 years. They weren't going to retrain me to do anything. I didn't want them to retrain me to do anything because they came in and they told me, they said, "Hey, we're going to retire you. Here's what you got coming: benefits, blah blah blah. You're going to get a check every month." I don't care. It's not what I wanted. I said, no. I'm going back to Iraq. I said, "Why do you want to go back to Iraq, man?" "I'm not done killing Muslims yet." Exactly what I told him. Needless to say, you don't say things like that when you're laying in the hospital bed because then all the special people come out. That's okay. But I fought it, and I fought it, and I fought it, and I lost. Alhamdulillah, was what I was supposed to do. See, because I had my own destiny figured out. I was going to die in combat. And I was good with that. Come back in that flag draped coffin, because in this country you will forever be known as a hero. Ever. It don't matter what you did in the past. who you hurt in the past. From this point on, you are a hero. Well, I learned shortly after that we don't have control over our destinies and we don't pick our destinies. So I came back, I was mad. I was mad because I was mad at the government, I was mad at the military. I was just mad. So I figured, okay, I'm gonna stand up for my country though. I don't like our government. I could have cared less about the government. Then, now, it don't matter. But I love my country. And I love what my country stands for. But in my twisted views, what it stood for, or what it's supposed to stand for, was completely opposite of the way I was acting. I devised a plan. Came up with materials. It's not real hard. Put it all together. And I thought it was kind of a poetic justice. IED. I'm going to blow this building up with everybody in it on June. That was the plan. That's what I was going to do. My daughter came home one day and told me about this kid who was in her school. She was like 7 years old. And his mom came to get him out of class. And she was dressed up, she's 7, But God has truly blessed our children. They are the only people in this world that are completely colorblind. True statement. True statement. But she knew Dad had been all over the world, and she didn't understand who this lady was and what she was doing, so she asked Dad about it. I snapped because I knew exactly what she was describing to me. She was describing a Muslim woman. One of the most important, biggest statements in the world. I don't want my people around those people. Right? Those people. I went off. Said all kinds of nasty, disgusting things. Shouldn't have been said around children. But I was mad. And I looked at her eyes. And she questioned her feelings about me. Now, those of us that are fathers out here that have daughters, we know that bond is pretty special. Pretty special. True. And she questioned her love for me because of the way I was acting. Because she knew it was wrong. 7 years old, she knows it's wrong. Dad's 40-something years old at the time. And been around the world, done things. But a 7-year-old knows that he's wrong. I decided I'm going to go meet these people face to face. And I'm going to go see what they're all about. Because I already know what the ones overseas are about. Because they just got done trying to shoot me. I already know. So I went. I walk in. African-American gentleman's in the shoe room. Found out he's a little older now, but back in the 70s, he used to play NBA basketball. And so it took him like an hour to get up, and he kept going. I don't know, but he was tall. And he gets up, he looks at me, kind of smiles, and I look at him, and he says, "Can I help you?" I said, "Yeah, I want you to teach me about Islam." He said, "How long you got?" I said, "I got a couple hours." He said, "Well, we'll give it a shot." So I listened to the hoopah, right? It sounded good, but I figured out they're just saying that stuff because I'm here, right? Now, let me retract a little bit. I did not go in there introducing myself as the Mad Bomber, okay? I just somebody wanted to learn a little bit extra about Islam, figure this thing out. What are you guys talking about all the time, and why is somebody, why is everybody so mad? That's who I went in there as. Push come to shove, a few minutes later, whatever, I get introduced to somebody else, and they handed me a Quran. And this is the best advice I can give any Muslim when discussing or talking about Islam to a non-Muslim. They gave me a Quran, and they said, "Hey, you want to learn about Islam? Just read this. Come back to us when you got questions." Fair enough, I can do that. I took my hatred, as hard as it was, I actually went home and cried because I was so mad at myself. I had a perfect opportunity to do something and I didn't, and I was so mad. I went home and cried. But I compartmentalized that hatred in order to do this, to make sure that what I was doing was the right thing. Because I knew I was going to end up in a federal prison. I knew I was going to end up laying down with a needle in my arm. I was okay with that, but I wanted to make sure it was for the right reasons. See, because dying didn't scare me. Being killed didn't scare me. I just wanted to make sure it was for a good reason. So I did. I went home, I read it. And my wife, you got to understand, my wife, she's a little bit anxious. She doesn't know what's going on. She knows her husband cannot stand Muslims. She had no idea what I had planned. She did not know what I had planned until the FBI brought bomb dogs to my house. She's still with me. Go figure, right? And she would ask me, she goes, okay, now look, hold on. You're watching videos on YouTube, and they were game peace and why Islam videos. Thank you very much. Had to plug that in there for you guys. Because they were. It was one of the sources I went to learn something. And I read, and I read, and I read. And I read the whole Quran within 8 weeks. No big deal, right? Read it during Ramadan anyway. But, you know, for somebody that's never read it, I guess 8 weeks is a big deal. At least that's what everybody acted like when I told them. But my wife's real anxious. She thinks I got something brewing. She thinks I got something planned. She had no idea. She had no idea that she was going to see her husband on America's Most Wanted. She had no idea. But I told her, I said, I'm just trying to figure this Islam thing out. She said, all right. And I would go to Jumas. I just sit in the back on the bench, man, just listen to them, okay. All right, yeah, that was in there. All right. Okay, all right. And I come back, or well, let's say 8 weeks after I took my first step into that center, I became a Muslim. I came from such a place of deep, dark hatred to becoming one of the very people I hated so bad. Because I learned that everything I thought I knew was wrong. Completely and utterly wrong. I was using these guys overseas as my inspiration and my example of Islam. No, they are not. And when I read the Quran, I read Surah 5, 32nd ayah. To kill one human being is if you killed all of humanity. To save one human being is if you saved all of humanity. So I read that and it hits me right in the face with such force. Because these guys are bloodthirsty savages. They're barbarians. They're Muslims. Wait a minute. I have their book right here. This is their book. And this says completely the opposite of the way they're acting. I can't use them as an example anymore, can I? I've never been accused of being a very intelligent person, but that wasn't too hard to figure out. That's what drove me to dig deeper, and that's what drove me to look farther and into the Quran. And oh, wow, hadiths. Woo, look at these. I mean, it was this one thing after another. So I went back to the masjid. Again, like most husbands, I don't tell my wife anything. And so she had no idea what I was doing. And so I go back to the masjid, And I went to the people who I've been talking to. I've been to their house for dinner and everything. I mean, you know, these people have just opened up to me. It's been very, again, still not knowing what I had planned. We'll get to that. But, so I said, hey, I want to take Shahada. This was the funniest thing. Two of them were standing there, and they looked at each other, they looked at me, and almost in unison, no, you're not ready. You need to learn more. I'm like, what? What? Well, you know, immediately these visions of convert or die are like just crumbling all around me. Because I'm like, well, they don't even care, do they? And I explained it to them. I said, yeah, okay, absolutely. I do have more to learn. I've been a Muslim for over 10 years. I still have more to learn. There's probably not anybody in this room that doesn't have more to learn. So they let me do it. Took Shahada. Went home. Sat back on the couch, kind of like, just got back from a hard day's work. It's like, Wife's like, so, everything go okay up there? She's still worried I'm going to do something, right? And I said, yeah, everything was great today. Actually, I became a Muslim. She said, you what? I said, yeah, I took Shahada today. And she said, you should what? and so, again, with this limited knowledge that I had, I tried to explain Shahada the best way I could to her. And she's like, okay. She still does not know how to take this, man. She, you know, like I said, I wasn't discussing none of this with her because I didn't want anybody else's insight in this. I didn't want anybody else's feelings in this because this was my hatred. Mine. I needed to take care of this for me. She automatically got defensive. She said, well, I'm going to tell you something right now. I'm not putting anything around my head. And I said, okay, well, you're not a Muslim, so that's really not even a conversation, is it? She goes, oh, and another thing. If you want more than one wife, I'm not going to be one of them. I was like, oh, Lord. Time goes on. Time goes on. I ended up becoming more involved in the center. And 3 years after I became a Muslim, I became president of that very building. The one I was going to blow up. My destiny, right? One, I had no idea what was going on. Sometimes I still look back and go, man, what was I doing? And then I was president of the Islamic Center, and all of a sudden, Dr. Seville comes to Indiana. I take my wife to Ball State University there in Muncie, and Islamic Awareness Week, he's speaking. The topic was 3 religions, 1 God. At the end of that discussion, my wife took Shahada. So we're on our way home. I'm driving. We're on our way home, and I says, so hey, about that more than one wife thing. She looked at me and she said, don't make me turn this car up. I'm like, you're not even driving. I said, man, you are a Muslim wife, aren't you? Sorry, sis. I throw that in. I love you all. So that's the fun part about it all. Because it all ended up on a happy note. Wasn't supposed to. Wasn't planned to. Things got changed shortly after that. I had recently had started going to university. Military, since they, I joke about it all the time. I said, well, since they blew me up, they decided to buy me a degree. So So I'm at the university, I'm in my major. My major was in social work. Yeah, I'm a social worker now, so I have no money. And I used to tell my professors, because I had a different type of relationship with my professors, because I was older, and I had a lot of experience. I wasn't like the normal 20-something student at the university. And I used to tell them, I said, you know, I'm going to change the world. Watch, I'm going to change the world. Professors were, all right, tough guy, easy now. Don't hurt yourself. So time goes on. I make this video that ends up on network television. The video was part of a series that's the internet only. But because of what happened a couple weeks before my video was set to air, the Christchurch shootings down in New Zealand, my video got passed off to the president of CBS, and she put it on her Sunday morning program. And that's how it ended up on network television. I read some of the comments, and of course the producer, as he talked to me, he said, listen, I'm going to tell you something right now. You can post a video of puppies and kittens, and somebody's still going to say I have something hateful to say. So don't take any of it personally. I said, well, okay, I just want to know. Unbeknownst to me, most of those comments were actually positive when I was looking for a lot of negativity coming my way. If I had a producer standing here, he could tell you all the numbers, and they're like pretty neat and everything, but I don't know any of that stuff. So it was more of a thumbs up than a thumbs down. That's the best I can tell you. So, but I read a comment, one of the comments, and he spoke very colorfully, so I'll paraphrase. But he said, if a tough guy like you can change the way he thinks, I guess I can too. I changed the world. Shortly after I started speaking, I was at JFK Library giving a speech in Boston, and a guy comes up to me as I'm walking around the library, and he says, Mr. McKinney, I just want to say thanks. I said, well, you're welcome, but what did I do? He said, you saved my life. How did I save your life? His wife had left him, took the kids. She's living with another man. He's not allowed to see the kids. He's lived in Boston his whole life, never been to the JFK Library. He was there today because that night he planned on killing himself. He heard my talk, and it touched him in a way to where he knew there was more to live for. I changed the world. Young guy sent me an instant message. 2 days before he was set to go to jail, he saw my show on television. My video, I should say my show. It's not my show. My video, like I have my own show, right? And he said it gave him something to think while he was locked up. And he remembers the part about the Quran and reading the Quran and having it touch him, or touch me in a certain way. And he said every time the book cart came by, the book that always jumped out at him was the Quran. So he grabbed it and read it. He was a heroin addict and a Satan worshiper. Today he's clean and sober and a Muslim. I changed the world. Right after I got done talking in Chicago, as soon as I sat down at the table, I get a message from a guy who's here in California, could not make it tonight. Inshallah, I'll meet him when I'm in Chula Vista in a few weeks. Wrote me a while ago, 37 years old, a high school teacher. He's been a spiritual searcher for most of his life, he said. But he had never leaned towards Islam because Islam to him was always something that, I'm not interested in that. he wrote me. He said he saw the video, and he said, you know what? There's something there. And he had told me he started reading the Quran. As soon as I sat down at the table, I get a message from him telling me that next week, which would have been this week, he's taking the Shahada. See, now I stood up here and said about how I changed the world. No, I didn't. I'm an instrument. That's all I am. A vessel. Allah changed the world. He just used me to do it. I told my wife one time, I said, I'm just a tool. She goes, yeah, you are. Oh, man. But I always go back to that, how I changed the world. I changed the world. I didn't do anything because I'm nobody. Really. I'm a guy with a story that today people want to hear. Tomorrow, probably not. That's okay. It's all right. Hopefully I'll have something else to talk about. Maybe not. But each and every one of us in this room have this power. We don't tap into that power enough. And I know everybody in this room has that power because otherwise, why would you be here? It's a celebration of a Dawah organization. Right? You're interested. You like the changes that are going on within the programs. It's good stuff. And you are a part of it. But this untapped potential that we don't see most of the time in ourselves, because we don't think of ourselves in that way. I spent 25 years in the military, so believe you me, when it comes to ego, oh man, I make myself sick sometimes. And I've learned to curb that back. And that's why I know now that, I didn't change anything. This was all planned to happen. Allah had this plan that He was going to use me in this way, and I still had a problem with why did I have to do all this nasty, ugly stuff and go through all of this nasty, ugly stuff and hurt so many people. But he even let me know that. It came to me because of the person I was and the extremes that I lived in. I had to be all the way over here before He could bring me back here. Because otherwise it would never have took with me. It would have been just a whim and a vision. Nothing more. Because it would have been no execution. Because a vision without execution is nothing but a dream. Dreams are great. Don't get me wrong. Dreams are great. But plans are better. To wake up in the morning and know that you have something you need to get done today for the betterment of humanity. There's not a better gift in the world. Not a better gift in the world. I have been referred to as a sheikh. I am not. An imam. Definitely am not. I'm just a guy with hopes, dreams, to right wrongs. Wrongs that I've committed or wrongs that I've been a part of. That at the time were told to me to be rights. This is what we need to do. That's just the way it is. I have to agree with that. Sometimes it is just the way it is. Till it's not anymore. We're the it's not anymore. Everyone in this room is the it's not anymore. There is no, that's just the way it is. It is what it is. But we we used to say all the time, it is what it is. No, not anymore. I probably bored you guys enough as it is, but I know everybody has things to do. I want to leave you with one last thing. Thank you all for coming. Thank the organization for bringing me here. But remember this one last thing. The power of one. We all have it. Ideas, changes. They don't start in boardrooms. They start with one. There was one Martin Luther King Jr. There was one Malcolm X. There was one Rosa Parks who said, nah, not today. We can, so we will, because we must. Jacques, go ahead.
One more round of applause for Mr. Richard McKinney. That's a lot of powerful story. So just like I said at the beginning, let's be motivated by these stories. Let's be inspired by these stories. Let's not just take them and say, "Wow, mashallah, that was a good speech," and we just go about our day. Imam Jawad, Dr. Sabil, Brother Nejm, very, very powerful words. Let's take some of these with us and motivate us to get out there. The brother was talking about how just a few words changed his life. And we have these words within us. We can share a few. We can share a few with the people who are not Muslims, with the people, with our neighbors, let's just be motivated to do something, inshallah ta'ala. So I was told to auction this off. This is, mashallah, very beautiful. It almost looks like a flag. The other way?
Straight.
Come. Brother Saad. There we go. Mashallah. Okay, so who wants to buy this beautiful piece of artwork right here? Starting at $100. $100 for this beautiful piece of artwork right here. Mashallah, it will go so good in your home, or outside of your home, or in your friend's home that you've purchased for him or her. $100. We got a sister, $100. Takbir. So who wants to go higher than $100? Who wants to go higher than $100?
It's beautiful.
MashaAllah.
Put the word.
Jamila.
Bismillah.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim.